Welcome, everyone, to the Automotive, Minimalism, and Innovation Series 2025, sponsored by Jasper Colin. We are honored to have Partha Goswami as our esteemed guest today.
Thank you for that kind introduction. To understand this particular term, minimalism, we have to understand what's the opposite. Let's call it maximalism. And what really happened in the industry going back, let's say, turn of the century, when first smartphone was introduced and consumers basically started to see that they have this digital platform in their hand. And then it's not just a phone, but essentially it's a device to bring in many different digital services to their life, right? So at that point, they started demanding that, hey, why can't I have that in my car? So this so-called idea of smartphone on wheels was born. But what that means, the flip side of that is, bringing a lot more services to the car was not necessarily a simple process. At the same time, car makers started to introduce a lot of safety or so-called ADAS features. They basically became something very overwhelming for the consumers. Let's come back to minimalism, right? So that led to a reaction, so to speak, where consumers felt that they're annoyed, they're overwhelmed, they don't really know what to do in the car. Essentially, overwhelming majority of the consumers said they don't know all the functions that the car provides, they don't know how to use them. In many cases, they become annoyance, distraction, basically increasing the risk of safety, which it was supposed to prevent in the first place, right? So that's really where you start to see the idea of minimalism coming to the consumers, where you want a cleaner, simpler interface. You want to make sure that things are not necessarily out of control. So basically walking backwards to something which is simpler, it's really what minimalism is all about. Just look at the cockpit. You basically are exposed to all these new features that you are adding, and that comes with the warnings, icons, some new buttons, some kind of new touch interface in your display systems, and on and on and on. Like, it's a big jumble of things, right? So there is a movement right now, or a backlash, if you may, okay, to kind of get out of that and present to the consumer not this whole gamut of various different controls and functionalities, but basically to offer something that feels and looks very simple, very clean, very uncluttered, right? So that gave rise to the concept of what we call shy tech. Tech meaning technology, shy technology. But essentially what this technology means is something that is not visible to the consumer, or it appears, the control only appears when you need it, where you need it. One of the things that design and engineering needs to collaborate is to move away from more is more to less is more. We have to remember that user experience is easy to understand because we are all drivers or passengers sitting in a cockpit. But I would say, user experience is not just in the cockpit. It's really everywhere else. It's really an end-to-end phenomenon, starting from the buying, starting from choosing the various functionalities of the vehicle, maintaining the vehicle, all those things. There is a series of ownership experience, and that needs to be simplified. We need to offer vehicles that have fewer features to begin with, basically reducing the complexity. So main area where design and engineering can and should collaborate is to reduce complexity, not just in one or other aspect of the vehicle, but the entire end-to-end design of the vehicle as a machine, manufacturing, how we do the business model associated with it, because they all add up to provide the final consumer experience.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us today.